Well, I can't believe it. Can't believe it. Almost made it out of this year 2012 without realizing that this is the 50th anniversary of the Incredible Hulk. And which is kind of funny because I think I'm about to get on a little Incredible Hulk kick here. Today we're going to be talking about Incredible Hulk, Future Imperfect, two-part prestige format miniseries. Came out in 1992, going into 1993, which blows me away because I can't believe that this was almost 20 years ago that this came out. By Peter David and George Perez. But before we get to it, let's do a little back history here, a little bit. When the Hulk debuted back in 1962, I want to say it was like around spring. I wasn't there. Turns out that he was actually gray when he popped up. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee came together. I'm not going to get into who did what, and had the idea of kind of mixing Frankenstein with Jekyll and Hyde. Okay, so essentially, first thing we had was the Hulk was more or less going to be about man versus the inner monster, and the monster is able to come out. So what a lot of people don't realize, but since Peter David just jumped on the book, years ago and stuff, they're more aware of it, is that the Hulk was actually gray. And it was Stan Lee's decision to make him gray, so the colorist got with him and told him about the problems of finding different shades of gray and whatever the coloring problems were back then with their palette. And essentially the Hulk became green, and whenever they would reprint the origin tale or come out with collections and stuff, they would recolor him green. That's how the Hulk became green, because gray caused color some problems. Okay, so basically we all know the origin of the Hulk. Okay, and if you don't, I'll show you a few pages here. Out of Giant Size Incredible Hulk, the King Size Special, the Incredible Hulk #2 here. They reprinted it. That's what I have here. But basically, Bruce Banner was a scientist hired by the government to create a gamma bomb. And when they were testing it, Rick Jones in his car went out there to try to take a shortcut. That's what I always read. And Bruce Banner ran out there and to try to save him, and they didn't stop the countdown, so he grabs Rick, tells him to run, throws him in a trench. He gets hit with all this gamma radiation and turns into the Hulk. And originally, when it started out, he would turn into the Hulk at night and be Bruce Banner during the day. Over the years, as things went by, the sort of the theme with the Hulk is that it's our inner anger or inner rage, the monster. And I was always trying to find a cure for Bruce Banner, because whenever he would get angry, tense, anxious, anything going on, he would turn into the Hulk and turn into Hulk smash and cause all this destruction. And they actually fooled the comic book code. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but basically the comic code authority says that you can't put the United States military or the government in the role of being bad guys. Well, the Hulk was the monster, and it was the military trying to capture him. They were the major antagonists there, and essentially they were the bad guys, and they brought in villains like the Leader and the Ringmaster and Abomination over the years, and where it was the 60s, the Hulk actually became considered across colleges to be a great counterculture icon. And there was actually a poll, and it was Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, Bob Dylan, and Che Guevara. It's pretty good company. Anyway, his series lasted 6 issues, and then he went into Tales of Astonish and got the Hulk one back again, and on and on and on. So anyway, so basically back in 1986, Al Milgrom came on and brought back the Gray Hulk. Okay, what? The Hulk is gray? He brought it back in a chemical bath. And essentially, over the years, the biggest thing they were trying to do, they tried to pull Banner out of the Hulk, or Hulk out of the Banner, and separate them. And it was always a big disaster. You had the Savage Hulk, you had the Mindless Hulk, you had the Hulk with Bruce Banner's brain. He always fell back into being a monster. Got thrown into a dimension where he could be a savage beast and everything. I mean, just a lot of stuff really happened. And obviously the theme was Banner being cured and trying to control his rage, not become the monster. Couldn't, have a wife or a real girlfriend. And Betty Ross was his love interest, and what is ironic is it was General Thunderbolt Ross's daughter, who was in charge of the big general in the military and always trying to chase him. Okay, so Peter David came on there and ran with what Al Milgrom started here. And Peter David turned this on its ear. We're going to skip ahead a few years. Okay. The Grey Hulk returned, and he was Joe Fixit, and he was cunning, smart, had a girlfriend, weaker, had a little bit more of a libido, and and Banner disappeared. So years later, I think this is around 90, they brought in Doc Samson, and they did some of the greatest Hulk books. I think is just amazing. They brought in Thunderbolt Ross, and what he had figured out is that the Grey Hulk, the Green Hulk, and Banner are all the same person. Over the years, there have been stories about how Banner's dad was abusive when he was growing up. He even kind of talked about maybe he killed his mom. And what had happened was, I think it's called a dissociative order. It's not a multiple personality disorder, but what happened is Banner repressed all that rage and everything like that, and the Green Hulk was actually him as a kid, always wanting to be left alone, always just responded with smashing and stuff like that, because over the years you would see when the Hulk calmed down, he would be like with gentle creatures and stuff. They were tapping Frankenstein with flowers and little girls and stuff, but I remember seeing pictures of deers with Hulk petting deers out in the wilderness, just wanting to be left alone. Leave me alone. It's like a little kid going to his room and slamming the door and just wanting to be left alone. And then the Grey Hulk was more or less him during adolescence. That's where the libido came in. Kind of got cunning, a little bit smarter and everything like that. And then Banner was just pure logic. All that emotion repressed, because of his dad. So Samson came in, and Banner more or less got to face his monsters. This is why Peter David and Dale Keown, when they started the session, but this is kind of where they were explaining about the Grey Hulk, like his college years, what affected him was like, trying to lose his virginity and it going terribly wrong. And then right there, we get to see everybody together. Now this is all going on inside Banner's head. And of course, it didn't go all that smooth and stuff inside Banner's head. You had the Green Hulk and the Grey Hulk come in, and in the real world, Banner's body was just morphing and shifting and stuff. It'd be like, Grey Hulk over here and Green Hulk down here and one big arm and skinny little leg. Just an amazing story. Just to give you an idea. And meanwhile, in their head, they're all going at it, trying to keep everybody together. And they all merged. And when they merged, they formed what the Hulk supposedly should have been to begin with when he was hit. It was more or less, it wasn't so much that it was Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, and the Grey Hulk. It's just what he should have been, Professor Hulk, if you will. Alright, and he came in, and he was smart, and he was cunning, and he was huge, and he was smart. He dressed nice. Pretty cool character, man. Just supposed to be normal. But Samson warned him that, or tried to warn him, and talked to Rick Jones and stuff, and more or less said that, you don't just, therapy doesn't work that way. This is more or less a band-aid on an atomic bomb is what it is. So, it's fragile, and Hulk's like, I feel fine, I'll be fine. Okay, so, basically what I'm getting at is Banner got to face his demons, his monsters. They finally stopped trying to separate the two because they weren't two separate entities. They were the same person. It was all, ego, super ego, and id, whatever psychological things you want to go at. Alright, so he had a few good years in the comics. He started running a team called the Pantheon, and you got to see how this smart Professor Hulk would work and everything like that. Great book, great series. Peter David was just the man on it. And then it happened. To put it real quick, people from the future came back. It turned out to be like the great daughter of Rick Jones. And they needed the Hulk to come to the future. So they used Dr. Doom's time travel machine, going all the way back to the Lee and Kirby days of Fantastic Four, and talked Hulk into coming with them. In the future, what had happened was that there had been a nuclear war. It had wiped out the heroes. And we are in Mad Max, Road Warrior, Beyond Thunderdome world. Okay? It's a dystopia. Even the city that they're talking about that's been reestablished is Thunderdome. It's called Dystopia. But it looks like Barter City from Thunderdome. So right there I'm hooked, man. You bring in those dystopian futures, post-apocalyptic worlds. You know, I just love that stuff. And there's this ruler over Dystopia, and it's the Maestro. The Maestro is always watching this stuff. And it turns out it's actually the Hulk. He absorbed that radiation and became stronger and smarter. And now the Hulk has to, after years of thinking that he's fixed his mind and he's faced his demons, now he's face to face with what he could become. Absolute power, corrupts absolutely, however you want to look at it. And this, you know, the Maestro is the Hulk in the future. Now, just to give you a few ideas, Peter David and George Perez just nailed this. This is a classic. I mean, back when prestige formats were coming out, when they first coming out, you know, you expected something special. You're going to pay down that extra money. It's on the big glossy paper. The story's going to mean something, and that's exactly what this did. Right there's the Maestro's castle, and isn't it ironic that it would be green? And the artwork of George Perez in this is so detailed. We get a 2-page spread of Dystopia. And I've looked at this and looked at this, hunt for Easter eggs and whatnot, just enjoying the art. And everybody in this is an individual. He drew an individual face. I mean, the detail in this is amazing. And when you read this, you really get a grasp of what's going on in the world. The women are being auctioned off, and everybody's sitting there bartering anything they can find. There's a guy with looks like a lizard heart sitting there trying to barter it off, and people want their stuff fresh, and it looks like it's right in the middle of what's left of New York. And eventually the Maestro's men came out, and you know, the Maestro rules with an iron fist, and they'll kill people on the spot. He has his guardsmen and stuff. So basically, this is what the rebels are wanting to take down the Maestro, so they went back in the past to get the Hulk, and the Hulk pops up. He's agreed to do it. And oh my gosh, the story goes from there. He fights gigantic robots called Dogs of War. You get to see what the Maestro is, and you know, where the Grey Hulk is involved, you see a big libido. The Hulk gets disturbed and he has to leave his orgy. And it looks like he's just got tons of women there. He's just laid out and he's naked and stuff. He's not real happy about it because something's going on in the city, and it's him. So not only is the Hulk dealing with the monster he would become, but this guy has the memories and more experience, and he's stronger than himself from 100 years ago. So right there, you know, he's found a challenge for the Hulk. The Hulk actually has become the underdog. And this is all tying into 30 years. It's actually kind of going back to the beginning because of the way this thing ends. Anyway, we get a little recap to remind people that the Hulk was gray. And he's wondering how they have these images of all this history, because there's no news footage of him getting turned into the Hulk and the Gamma Bomb, and it's from the mind's eye. And just to get to it, turns out Rick Jones is there. Rick Jones is still alive, and he runs around in one of Xavier's old wheelchairs. But this is the 2-page spread that actually, I think, made this miniseries famous. George Perez drew this amazing collection of the remains of heroes in this little bunker. Okay, you've got like the Beast pelt up there. You got Captain America's shield, Mjolnir. Up at the top, you got all the helmets and masks of these heroes. You got the pieces of the Silver Surfer's surfboard. You got the things, rock pieces of his body in the shell of a head of a sentinel. And New Kandor from Krypton. Kandor, the bottled city, is hidden in there. Ashes of heroes. And you just go through this and you just find more and more and more. And that's kind of what made it famous. Rick Jones and his bunch had gone through and collected all these remains of the heroes. Thus, he's a collector, much like we're a collector. It lives on. So, as the story goes on, they fill you in on a few things. They show you how evil the Maestro is. You know, Wolverine's skeleton, to make sure you see that, because that plays a huge plot. That plays into the story later. And Captain America's shield, they make sure you know everything that's in there if you missed it in the 2-page spread. And then we get to the urns, and the Hulk is looking at the remains, and he finds Betty's urn. And behind him, which cracks me up, it says Jean Grey again. So Jean Grey died again. That was an ongoing joke. And of course, we finally get to the Maestro and the Hulk meeting. Now, without going through the next comic to try to get you to get this, Maestro gets into a hellacious fight with the Hulk, of course, and he ends up beating, not only beating the Hulk, but he breaks his neck. Knowing that he'll heal himself while he's paralyzed, he starts giving the Hulk a taste of the life the Maestro has made. And the Hulk, I have seen the Hulk, become a slave on a space pirate ship, if you will, kind of hunting down like their version of Moby Dick. I've seen the Hulk take a beating from the Abomination. I've seen the Hulk get thrown into space and be frozen. I've seen the Hulk, and all these, just get him. I mean, I've just seen the Hulk get beat and fight these monsters and everything like that. And what makes him scream is while he's paralyzed, the Maestro brings in a woman who's watching him off, and she has him rape the Hulk, and he's screaming the whole time it's happening. The Hulk actually screams by a little feral woman. And the Maestro's just loving this. He's trying to break him psychologically and stuff. And then it comes down to the big showdown at the end. And in that little bunker with all the superhero stuff, he actually ends up stabbing. He throws Captain America's shield and impales into the Maestro and then tries to push it in. Rick Jones gets thrown into Wolverine's adamantium skeleton, and the claws actually kill him and impale him. And it goes on from there. And the ending, I'll go ahead and tell you, ties all the way back to the beginning of the Hulk's origin with the Gamma Bomb, and I'll leave it at that. Anyway, the Maestro series, Maestro popped up in a few places after that. Peter David kind of used him. He popped up in, I think his first appearance was like Hulk 401, and then he popped up in Hulk 460s, around there. Peter David used him in a Captain Marvel series he did, and then they used him in the Exiles. Exiles were doing what was called more or less a world tour, and they ended up in the Future Imperfect world. And this takes place before Future Imperfect. And, if you like the Maestro, it's a nice little taste of things to come. And actually, Tony Bedard kind of wrote how he got the idea of breaking the Hulk's neck in this. There he is in the bunker, looking at a few things. Anyway, I've been under the weather, so I hope this review is okay, and hope I didn't go on too long. But check out Hulk Future Imperfect. It's a lot of fun.